Look, anything's possible today. I mean, who knows what can happen today? But the point here is this, you have to look at what the problem is. And the problem is the American economy is crushed. It hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse since 2008.
As you're investigating many pension plans and funds and, fraudulent activities going on, or corrupt activities going on, would you say that the baby boom generation may not be able to afford to retire? Or there's something's rotten in the pension programs of America. It's not just mismanagement. It's actually stupidity and corruption by the fund managers, not the police officers, not the firemen, not the teachers. But the people that they trust their pension to are either corrupt, incompetent, or completely have no idea what they're doing. Well, let me ask you this. Well, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. Well, for the millennials, you guys, it's even worse because you probably won't have a pension. Are you counting on Social Security? So look at this chart here. This is Social Security. It goes bust now. It's bust. Medicare is bust. One of the saddest things about America today is not only are we the biggest debtor nation in the world, but when I was your age, only 20% of our budget went to entitlements. Today in America, it's 75%. We have all of these people saying the government should take care of me. They used to AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and Comrade Sanders. They all want the government to take care of them, just as we're going bust. So that's why we created the Rich Dad Company, because it'll give somebody like you a chance. Your generation's toast, I hate to say that. This is worldwide. Pensions are broke all over the world. I was just in Romania talking to these young guys who said, everybody stole all the money of our pensions. And that was in Rich Dad, in fake assets. They steal your money through your money and your assets. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing.
People miss the macro. I think our national debt is over $50 trillion. Don't quote me on it. So you think Bitcoin's going to cover that? You think silver is going to cover it? You think gold's going to cover that? So as gold goes down, to me, it's a buying opportunity. The same as when Bitcoin crashed, it was a buying opportunity. And so all you guys who are gold guys, just look at the biggest problem of all. This COVID's not going away, and the economy is crashing, and they haven't started to print money yet. Look at Janet Yellen. I don't know what that means. If she becomes Treasury Secretary, she was Fed Chairman, and if Biden persists, she becomes Secretary of Treasury. That's the marrying of the Fed and the Treasury. That's MMT. That's magical or Marxist monetary theory. They're going to print like crazy. So I think our deficit is really around 50 trillion, off balance sheet liabilities and all this. Plus our pensions are going to collapse. So it's really bad news, but it's good news for gold.
It's about fake money. So that was 1971. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. What else Nixon did in 74, he opened the door to China. And today, all the jobs left America. Another thing that Nixon did, he created the 401k, fake pension. So in the 1970s, when I was about your age, that's when the world was changing. So fake money, fake teachers. Did the teachers ever tell us that? The teachers are such a waste of time. Their education is important, but what are they teaching you? So it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets.
Look, anything's possible today. I mean, who knows what can happen today? But the point here is this, you have to look at what the problem is. And the problem is the American economy is crushed. Our pensions are crushed. That's why I wrote the book, Who Stole My Pension? Because the authors, Ted Siddell and myself, Ted's the #1 whistleblower on pensions in America.
And for the young guys like you have no Social Security. And if the defined benefit and the DC collide, defined 401k collide, everything goes down.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
So this pension problem is the biggest problem that faces the world. And the reason is our school system is complicit. They're in cahoots with the banks. Yeah. So that's why I wrote Rich Dad's Prophecy in 2002. It was about a thing called the 401k. Mm-hmm. So again, that started back in 1970, again with Nixon and all this stuff. So when I was your age, there was a thing called the three-legged stool. And what they said was, for my generation, you would have savings, you would have Social Security, and you would have a pension, 401k or something. Guess what? Gone. Your generation doesn't have this even. That's the challenge. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was formed. Like I said, I wrote this in 2002, and I said the biggest crash was going to come in 2016. The reason it didn't come, because I started this book in 1999, I didn't see quantitative easing. I didn't see all this printing money coming. So what has happened, do you think the problem has been solved? What happens, as folks understand, in the world today, there's two types of pensions. There's defined benefits. And that's where the government, or you work for a big corporation like Ford or Chevy, defined benefit is a paycheck for life. This ended in 1970, except for government employees. And they shifted us in 70 to defined contribution. And with defined contribution, it's a 401k or an IRA and those things. You only get what you contribute. So if you're lucky to live to, let's say, 90, this is gone. And you're out of money. So the question is, what is your generation going to do? Now, the thing that most people don't realize is that what's going to cause the biggest crash is this, is the teachers, firefighters, and police officers. Yeah. It's the defined benefits that are going to crash the world. And the reason for that was in 2000, what the Federal Reserve banks, the banks of the world, they push interest rates down to below 0%. To guarantee a defined benefit plan, you needed 8%. So they didn't have any money in here. So it's the police officers, firefighters, and teachers that are going to screw us all. People like my poor dad. So what happened is they had their money. Then they started adding debt to it. And what happened was that still wasn't going to cover this year. We couldn't pay for the teachers, the firefighters, and police officers. So around 5-6 years ago, they added taxes to it. So what happens now is for the state and for us, they started raising taxes to try and cover this gap here. So what's happening is, even though Trump gave us a tax cut, the state and local governments are raising taxes in here. If you're in Ted's camp, which is a defined benefit, which is the state employees, those guys, there's things you can do. If you're in my camp, which is a defined contribution, there's definitely things you can do. But you've got to start earlier than before the crash hits. The prediction is this pension crisis is the new defined, that subprime mortgage, it's subprime pensions that are going to crash this market. So that's why we wrote this book. And there's one thing terrible about mortgages versus pensions. You don't get younger. This is going to happen because everybody's getting older. So all of this is going up here, and what is happening with all this money is going into the stock market. So the stock market is going like this. It's just going through this. It's never been so high. In 2008, the stock market was at 14,000. Today is at 25,000. And the reason is pension money, debt, and taxes are pushing up the stock market. Let me ask you this. What happens when that stock market comes down? Now, defined benefits are toast. Mm-hmm. Defined contributions are toast. And cities and states go bankrupt. Mm-hmm. That's how serious it is. That's why the Rich Dad Company was founded. It's because of those teachers, firefighters, and police officers that's driving this up, it's pensions. So So what do you think you can do? It's actually called the Robin Hood theory. You take from the rich to give to the poor. And the trouble with Robin Hood, it just creates more crooks. Robin Hood was a crook. Yeah, oh, he's a good crook. No, he's a crook. So the Rich Dad Company teaches capitalism, how we teach people to fish rather than give people fish. So for your generation, it's important to know the difference between being taught that guys like me should give you money. It's going to change. It's going to be the biggest change in economic history. And the thing about it, this is the first time the world is in the same problem. Before, when there was a crash, only Greece went down, or only Puerto Rico went down, or only Venezuela went down. This time the world's going down at one time. So that's why I wrote Prophet says that the crash would come in 2016, but I didn't see quantitative easing. I didn't know how much money they would print. And like I said, when I was your age, entitlements were 20% of the budget. Today they're 75% of the budget. In 10 more years,